Hi, this is 𝗙𝗵𝗄𝗂 coming to you direct from London, the United Kingdom, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we talk about how you can start and scale your digital marketing agency. And if you are watching this interview outside of our Facebook group, then make sure to find the link above or below this video, or go to smmamastermind.com. Now, with this out of the way, I have a very special guest joining me just outside of Arizona in Phoenix, Arizona, in the US. His name is 𝗕𝗿𝗵𝗂, and he is the founder of 𝗘𝗺, an email marketing agency that specializes in working with e-com brands, and I'm sure it's more niche now. So Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Good, thank you.
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, for viewers who might not know who you are, why don't you give a little bit of an introduction into, I suppose, who you are and how you got started in the digital marketing space?
Yeah, so I've been in digital marketing now over 10 years, I want to say. First working for brands, e-commerce brands, and some on the B2B side. And then I transitioned to the agency side 2015, 2016, before deciding to start my own. So just FYI on a background, I have a background in marketing and sales, starting off in sales and transitioned to doing more digital marketing. So I kind of caught the wave of e-com in general, and it's only getting, as you've seen, stronger. I decided to start my agency just over a year and a half ago that, yes, does focus on email marketing for e-commerce brands with a particular niche, focusing on the seven-figure ones. So we're built to handle just the bigger brands in general that's coming from that background. So I've had an email background, digital marketing background, decided to start my agency beginning of 2019, and here we are.
Awesome, awesome. That's a great introduction. I suppose first question for you. There are so many disciplines within digital marketing. Why did you focus on email as opposed to maybe paid social or paid search?
Yeah, so I didn't so much focus on it as it came to me. Like I said, I just kind of fell into it. So I started off in the very early days. If you go back even further, coming out of high school, I just didn't want to follow the traditional path. Affiliate marketing was just becoming a thing, so I started off there. This was in the very early stages where basically you get commission for sending traffic. And back then, email was a channel that was the easiest as basically a broke high school / college student that had no money. So back then, there really were no rules. There were no laws before, obviously, the 𝗕𝗿𝗵𝗂 Act came. So yes, I hate to say it, back in the day, I was a spammer. So I started off there, doing black hat stuff. But since then, definitely cleaned up my acts. Don't do any of that anymore. Focus completely on white hat marketing. So it wasn't so much that I chose email. It's more or less, I think it may have chosen me just based on my personality and just wanting to try to make money online, because I thought it was the coolest thing that was ever invented when the internet was just coming up in the mid to late 90s. So I found a way to make money and just kind of scaled it from there. And just, as I kind of grew, the channel grew and other channels became a thing. So I want to say I started before even SEO was a thing, and then obviously like the paid stuff came, paid social, paid Google ads, and then now we're into like the realms of the TikToks and the influencer marketing, which is a little bit above and beyond what I'm doing, but it was just one of those things where it kind of fell into me. I didn't so much choose that channel, but I've kind of grown along with the other channels as well, have a general understanding of all the digital channels, but mostly just for now focus on just the email side.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you're working with e-com brands that are generating seven figures. When you started your agency, were you working with seven-figure brands from the get-go, or is this something that you have kind of niched into as you have?
Yeah, as an agency owner, that's one of the hardest things to do, is just kind of niche down. A lot of, myself included, they want to be like the jack of all trades, just become the guy that does everything. I realized pretty quickly that's not a great way to start. So I originally started off as a B2B. I wanted to start off in B2B. Then I realized the more I focus on B2B, I started getting more e-com clients again. So I looked at who my existing clients were, as the ones I've worked with in the past, and I found the pattern. So I decided relatively, I would say about 6 months ago, to really focus on that niche because I've mostly worked with those type of clients, understand their needs, and the team in general is built to handle those type of clients. So that's kind of how we, I guess, again, stumbled upon our own niche, but it definitely was one of the hardest things to do, is just kind of really niche down, like kind of own your niche. So we're now just really starting to do that. And that was, the main decision in doing that was basically who I worked with in the past as well as my current clients.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of what your service is, your service offering, what does your agency do for your clients?
Yeah, so we're full service email. I like to say, just to keep it simple, we handle all aspects of email. So we do work with the 7-figure brands, but also we do full design. We'll do the copywriting. We'll do obviously execution, strategy, reporting. That includes not just marketing emails, but can also include some of the operational ones that may need some tweaks as well. So I like to say, just to keep it simple, we handle all email in regards to e-commerce email marketing.
Okay, great. And in terms of looking kind of deeper into email marketing, there's quite a few people who might be watching this show who are trying kind of email marketing on their side. What do you see as the most common mistakes most businesses make when trying to generate, I suppose, sales through email marketing?
Yeah, I want to say it's usually they spend a lot of time on the campaign side, not so much on the automation. Really building out just really niche down flows as well. Segmentation is one I always see a lot of times. I'm working with clients that just do they'll take their entire list and just send it out. So we really focus on just building out some of the really advanced segmentation strategies based on behavior more so than demographics. So basically someone who has interacted with your brand, someone who's continually opening or clicking and making purchases is much more likely to buy in the future than someone who's been on your lists for quite some time but hasn't done anything. So we spend a lot of time building out that segments, as well as I would say just working with the other channels. So we like to think of ourselves as an email marketing agency that does omni-channel marketing. So we work with your Facebook team, we work with the Google team, we work with even influencers, we work with content team. So we're basically the hub, but we work with all these teams to really, really optimize the email. Because as you've seen, and as most people have seen, the paid stuff just isn't getting cheaper. So it's in our best interest to really work with those teams to really maximize the spend that goes on there, to collect emails at scale and collect more emails.
And you've touched on automation, segmentation there. For those who might not be familiar with those terms, when you're talking about automation, what are the typical flows that you look to set up for your clients?
Yeah, I would say all clients have what I call the 3 pillars, which are going to be your welcome series, your abandoned series, which can include abandoned cart, browse abandoned, and your post-purchase series. So those are the 3 flows that almost all, I can't think of a situation where most would not have that. So your welcome series being, just anybody who converts on a pop-up or a newsletter sign up, converting leads into buyers. Abandoned series, abandoned carts, they browse abandoned, any abandoned action where they add a cart or an item or they're browsing an item. Then post-purchase is everything after they make that purchase. So congratulations, you got your first purchase, now what? These are your most successful, your purchases are your most valuable, one of your most valuable assets is the e-commerce brand. So those are the 3 we focus on. Then every brand might be slightly different. If you're a subscription company, you might have some subscription flows, upselling purchasers in subscription. If you have items, apparel companies typically have items that go out of stock quite frequently. If you're multi-SKU brand, back in stock might be a flow, as well as just kind of, smaller wins, operational ones like birthday emails are always nice. I can count on one hand how many brands actually send me just a happy birthday email, which is always great. Little things like that, just based on who you are as a brand, we'll go in and tweak. But I would say the first 3 I just mentioned, those pillars, welcome, abandon, post-purchase, 3 most important. Then everything else falls in the automation based on where you are in the funnel.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds like a lot of work, which is probably why someone needs an agency to set it up. Do you have like a preferred email marketing platform that you use?
Yes, we like to keep it. So it's usually based on the client. So we have ones that we recommend. So the ones the most common that we use for e-com are going to be 𝗘𝗵𝗴𝗂, HubSpot, Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So we've worked with Retention Science. I know people are gonna get mad, like, hey, how come you didn't name my brands? So those are a few of the ones we've named, but there's literally, I wanna say, thousands of email platforms out there. You know, to this point, they all do stuff slightly different. So those are, I would say, the top ones, and there's some other ones that we recommend. You know, sometimes we do recommend switching platforms if it's gonna be just based on our team experience, but other times we recommend keeping them on there. So they're all over the map, but if you ask me personally, those are the ones I would recommend without knowing much about the brand.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very comprehensive list there. So, in your opinion, what are the core components of a successful email?
Yeah. So email. So a lot of it comes down. At least working in an agency is usually, I'd say, the number one factor. Has a lot to do with just communication in general. Email is just such a personal touch to a brand. You know, one typo, one mistake can really just, you know, crush, you know, people's, you know, expectations and reputations within that brand. So we work very close with the brand. So I'd say just, you know, staying on point, just having a clear line of communication. And we provide these services where basically I've met every client personally that's come through the door here, just the nature of who we work with. So we try to almost over communicate just to make sure that we're, you know, on point and just following guidelines. But there's other stuff too, just, you know, inventory, I always say, and this goes across all channels, making sure you have the actual products in stock is, you know, a huge one, because we can't do marketing without the products. So if you don't have those, and I get it, you know, there's always budget concerns there, but that's another big one. There's little ones as well, but I would say those are the two biggest ones that we run into that, you know, have the biggest potential for success or failure when it comes to email.
Mm-hmm. And when you're looking at the content itself, what makes good email content?
Yeah, so that's content can be tricky because some brands we work with are very particular about their brand, their writing style. Like, for example, we don't always, as much as we do content writing, we're not always the expert in that subject. Like, we work with a lot of health companies. We work with very kind of select jewelry and luxury brands as well, that have a very select audience that knows their content. So we work very, very closely. We know content basically for best practices, just having, you know, good calls to action, blending in just, you know, heavy content versus, you know, sales content. Like, these are all just things that, you know, go across the board for e-com. But when it does come to select content, like, we do work with the teams in general who are the experts. Then after we've worked with the brand for, you know, 3 to 6 months, maybe we understand that particular, you know, how to write that content a little bit better. So it's always a work in progress, but we do have like a general understanding of like just the best practices in general for e-commerce.
Okay, no, that's a lot of kind of things for someone to look at when they are, I suppose, optimizing or creating their email content. And as you say, it kind of varies from niche to niche and client to client. So coming back to your actual journey in starting your agency, when you started, you know, how did you go about picking up clients?
Yeah, so a lot of it in the beginning was just based off referrals. Just having positioning myself as an email guy and an industry expert. Originally, I got, you know, had out of the gate, had a couple referrals. Then I really started to hustle and having to, because obviously, you know, you can't build one agency out of 1 or 2 clients, because what happens if, you know, one of those or both of those clients leave, right? They all have different reasons for hiring you as the agency expert. So then we started building out case studies of clients I worked with in the past. We started building out just content in general. Ebooks were obviously a good one. Blogging, attending industry events when I could. And this is all before COVID, obviously. These are all just little things that I had no idea would actually have a return on investment, but just kind of putting yourself out there. You know, content marketing in general, especially on the B2B side, it's hard to put a dollar amount behind that. So it's really just trying a bunch of things and just seeing what works and then trying to double down on that as best as possible.
Did you have to do any cold emailing or cold calling?
I tried that just to see what would happen. I'm not great at cold calling, but yeah, like I did a few cold calls. I had my team just kind of generate a list. Usually I was doing cold emailing, you know, being an email background, it's definitely something I can relate to, but I did do some cold calling, didn't have much success with it. So I just kind of hung up the phone and said, I'm not going to do cold calling for now.
No, I
So,
mean that.
yeah.
I do the same if I was in your shoes. Now, you touched upon kind of, you know, COVID-19 and the pandemic. What impact has that had on your agency?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because some brands have done much better than expected without it. Like I have a few brands that are under the essential category that got deemed essential during COVID-19. I would say e-commerce in general actually upticks. It expedited retail's downfall almost 5 to 10 years according to some studies. So in general, I would say e-commerce actually improved. It's hard to say, but most of my clients actually are doing better. Some are flat, some are slightly down. But I think at least after those first couple of months when people started buying stuff online, you know, those clients in particular, especially the essential ones, did much better than they normally would, just because their product was deemed essential and people started buying a lot of that stuff in bulk.
And did you have any of your clients scaling back on their activities, or did you see them doubling up on their activities, or, you know?
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't really I didn't scale down much of anything. So it was just more just kind of, I would say overall lift, organic lift, you know, just more interest through Google. I didn't scale back really at all. In fact, we did scale up a bit. And mostly just really tried to optimize that and just, you know, be clear. We did have a lot of, actually the one thing that we did have was we had a number of SKUs go out of stock because of those, again, essential items. So that was one thing we did have to deal with. I did send like a lot of just kind of operational emails apologizing basically for the shipping delays. Like that was like a common thing that we saw. But yeah, like obviously I don't think people were prepared for this at all. You know, not expecting them to be, but it was just one of those things that happened. We just had to go with the flow. And yeah, I would say overall, like most of my clients did better than usual.
And in terms of building your agency, I mean, and you've been on this journey from, I think, a year and a bit now.
Yeah.
Apart from COVID-19, what are some of the challenges that you have had to overcome?
Yeah, it's just one of the hardest things I have personally. Just, you know, obviously splitting your time, because your time is your most valuable asset, at least when you're starting out, is differentiating between brands, like building the brand versus working with the clients, right? So that's the balance that you just have to play, because obviously both are super important depending on where you are. You don't build a brand, you don't get the clients. You don't work with the clients, they don't stay on the brand. So it's that balancing act, I would say, is definitely the most difficult. And then having to wear a lot of hats, at least in the beginning, doing a lot of stuff that eventually I want to kind of punt and, you know, focus more on brand stuff. But, you know, I would say just definitely balancing brands and working with clients is definitely the hardest thing, because usually you want to put clients first, which we do, but at the same time, you still need to spend some time building out your brand.
A final question for you. In terms of people who are looking to start and grow their agency right now, what's the best advice you can give them?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, for me, it's just like I had to just focus everything on it. I know some people would prefer to, you know, stick in their current situation or current job. It's almost like one of those burn the boat situations where there's no turning back. It really kind of put things in perspective, and do have a plan. Like my plan was basically, I had a 6-month, a 2-year, and a 4-year plan. Now we're just hitting the 2-year plan of just kind of, all right, after 2 years, do I still want to continue on this agency? After 4, do I still want to continue it? So these are all things we planned out before we launched. But, you know, at least for me, just being 100% focused on this and growing this and trying to make it work was the thing that I would say is most important. Again, there's no guarantee it will work. There's no guarantee that you'll want to continue doing what you're doing, but at the same time, like, give yourself that chance. If you fail, you fail. Try something new. That's basically been the story of my life.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for kind of joining us and sharing your journey. If you are looking to obviously kind of find out more about what Jason is doing, I will be tagging him to this video, so you can go and check out what he's doing with our growth. On that note, Jason Bailey, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoy it.